Well, good evening. Hi, and welcome to this, our final live stream talk for the season. And we've got a really fantastic talk lined up for you tonight to finish the season off. I'm delighted to introduce Craig Murray. And Craig is joining us live from New Zealand, where it's currently breakfast time tomorrow out there. Craig, he's still in his early 20s, but he's already one of the world's top extreme skiers. I think he came fourth in the 2020 Freeride World Tour, and I guess we'll hear quite a lot more about that tonight as the talk proceeds. But Craig's also got very strong connections with Boat of Garten, and it's probably fair to say that there wouldn't be a brand new, brilliant community hall in our village without the drive and the energy and the stamina shown by his granddad, Ian Murray, a long-standing and well-respected resident of the boat. And it was Ian, and together with Lorraine McPherson, who were the driving force behind getting a new hall built. And they had the vision and the commitment, and they gave the leadership that both developed and delivered a fantastic hall that we have now. So sadly, Ian's no longer with us, but Sue, his wife, is here and is a highly respected resident herself. And I'm sure she's watching tonight. So cheers, Sue. Enjoy this evening, relax, and settle back and watch your grandson perform. So we've come full circle, really, with Craig joining us tonight. So he's helping us to raise some funds to help ensure the hall is sustainable, and that really closes the loop for that his granddad started. And I'm sure that if Ian were around, he would be chuffed a bit to see Craig tonight. There's a lot of folks in the village have spoken to me about Craig's skiing abilities, and they recall seeing a video that Sue put around where Craig was demonstrating his skills as an 8-year-old. And he was on this dry ski slope that he designed at home, which is essentially his stairs. So he donned his skis and skied down the stairs. And I think that augurs well for his future in skiing. Gave him the balance and gave him the skills and the tenacity and maybe the madness that you need to do the kind of extreme skiing that he now does. So let's get on with it. Remember, post your questions and comments as the talk goes on, so we can have a really good Q&A session at the end. But now, and I can't believe I'm saying this, we're going to go over live to our studio in Wanaka, South Island of New Zealand. And Craig, it's brilliant to have you with us. It really is. Thank you so much for taking the time to prepare the presentation for tonight. And really, over to you now. The screen is all yours.
Thank you very much, Mike. Yeah, it's honestly a pleasure to be doing a talk, like you say, for Boat of Garten in the community hall. It's obviously quite close to my heart. So it's a real pleasure to be doing this, and I'm glad to help raise funds for that cause. I think it's awesome. And please do post questions as I go, and we'll get to them at the end. We'll have a good session on questions, and I'll answer everything I can. But yeah, I'm just gonna do a kind of overview of a bit of background, and then I'll go through Europe and competing around the world, and should be quite fun, actually. A bit of a trip through memory lane for me, so I'm excited as well. It's been cool digging through old photos and pulling everything together. I've got some videos in there as well, which will be awesome. And yeah, here we go. All right, so this is me, Craig Murray. That's my friend Jamessa down the bottom on the knuckle there. And that's just at a local ski hill here in Wanaka. So going into my background, I'm 22 years old. Currently living in Wanaka, New Zealand. This is where my dad lives, who's the fella in the camo and backpack there. My mum lives in Sumner, Christchurch, and Christchurch is where I grew up. I've got an older brother, younger sister, who are both also very outdoors and competitive and adventure sports. We grew up in the hills basically, and this photo kind of sums up a bit of that. It's a trip 2 years ago into Fjordland, where we were in a remote valley system and did a big kayak trip and camping in the bush. Here we are scoping some wapiti, which is in a famous block here. The hunting season's about to get underway, actually, so we do a little bit of everything, to be honest, here in New Zealand. I think just with the terrain and mountains and water and ocean that we have, we've just grown up doing everything from kayaking to surfing to mountain biking. And yeah, I mean, that's been hugely shaping in who I am today. It's I don't think of myself as just a skier, and skiing is just something that's developed over the years, and I found a passion for it when I was very young. As the parents in the winter, the parents would take us up the ski field, and there wasn't too much else going on in winter, I guess. I think in New Zealand it's special, and you can kind of see in this photo as well, there's snow up the top of the peaks, and then you'll come down through the Alpine and you'll get to lower elevations, where Wanaka here, which is considered a mountain town in New Zealand, is only at 350 meters above sea level. So it's kind of a town where you can do activities all year round, but it's a lot colder and less pleasant. So in the winter, when we were younger, skiing would be what we'd do, and our parents would take us up the ski field, and that's where I kind of started. It was with my brother and a couple of our friends, and I think I just found a love for it. Well, we all did, and then all of a sudden that was everything. And like Mike said, it was skiing down the stairs at home when we couldn't go skiing, and constantly looking for the next trip to get away to the mountains. So yeah, it was definitely a different love that developed. I think it was quite unique in that way. We really loved it for what it was, and there wasn't too much focus on any sort of competition or getting better. It was just a lot of self-improvement and pushing each other, because we enjoyed it and we loved learning that next trick or hitting that next bigger cliff. And that's, for many years, that's what it was all about. So here's just a couple images to get us started. So the one on the left here, that's a recent project I've done, skiing off a peak just in our backyard here, not too far away. That's me down the bottom, and that peak is called Mount Avalanche. The middle photo is a photo from this time last year, competing on the Freeride World Tour, and the photo on the right is a photo from Canada in Revelstoke, where I was living last northern winter. So yeah, here's some more growing up in New Zealand, which again, it's pretty much what I was covering what I was talking about before. But the top panorama there, that's a view of Wanaka, where I am living. That's from a friend's farm, actually, up on the hill. Bottom left photo, there's Sue there. Dad, my little sister Fiona, Sue, Mum, and me. Unfortunately, we're missing my older brother Charlie in that photo, but he's in the next photo with the mountain bikers going up the hill here. So yeah, and I mean, the great thing, there's a few friends there as well, and that's been a huge part of bringing in all our sports, is just the friends involved and the amount of fun we have doing it. And that's definitely what's driven the progression more than anything. It's just the enjoyment of it, and not having to worry about if you're getting better or how you're getting better. It just happens naturally when you're enjoying the sport with your friends. And then the photo on the right is I think that was Ian and Sue were there that day. They might have even taken that photo. That's Charlie with the fishing rod, and then that's me on Dad's shoulders. That's at our batch up in Lake Coleridge. So skiing in New Zealand, we grew up just skiing an easier type resort with T-bars, which I think you guys actually have in the Cairngorms. And then pretty quickly we progressed to rope tows, which is shown on the bottom right photo there. Once we were big enough to hold on to them, that's basically where we skied, at these local club fields with rope tows, and they were a lot more relaxed and less people and better terrain. And we just loved it. We could, go away, do our own thing for the day, and find lots of different features and lots of different ways to push ourselves. And I think that was a huge part of our skiing, and still is a huge part of my skiing. I love getting to the club fields. I'm actually recently joined the committee for this club field. All of these photos have been taken at. So yeah, the way they clear the road is with a big old bulldozer. They build and clear a road up a mountainside, and it's a pretty hairy road. In the winter it can ice over, and you need all 4 chains to get your trucks up it. This is the bottom hut, which is the top right photo is the bottom hut, where you can sleep and stay, and you can see a cozy little fire in the background. And then the bottom left photo is outside the bottom hut, loading up the truck to head up the hill. So getting into competing, basically we just grew up skiing at the club fields, like I said, and then we were pushing ourselves every day, learning tricks, whether it was a 180 one day and a 360 the next, or a cliff one day and a bigger jump the next. It was constant as we were growing up, and it was competitive as well, but not in a negative way. It was always very positive progression coming from the friend group, and having an older brother was a huge part of that. There was always someone there to look up to, or to try and catch. So yeah, we started competing. There were a few local events, thanks to Stuart Chill. He organised some junior freeride events, which that centre photo that's me winning a pair of skis. My first ever pair of skis I won, which was pretty special. So we were super lucky to have some local junior events that really got us into it, and we figured out, what competing was and how to do well. Although we did a lot of crashing in the early days. I think it was pretty hard to find the balance between jumping big and landing it. So it so from there, from being young competing, we started to travel a little bit further in New Zealand, and we came down to Wanaka because we were at this stage living up in Canterbury, Christchurch, and came down to Wanaka and started competing in a broader competition with a lot more kids, and a lot of kids that were skiing a lot more than we were at the time. We'd just do weekends and school holidays, but a lot of the kids would be either homeschooled or taking time off in the week, and so it was quite different for us. We were definitely the outcasts. These random kids from Canterbury who would come down to these competitions and just do a lot of crashing and probably trying things way above their ability levels. But we actually had some great friends we made from those competitions as well, like the Billis brothers, and all of a sudden ski pack grew, and with that, progression grew again. So yeah, after doing a bit more New Zealand competitions, still in the junior level at this point, under 18. Well, I would have been under 16, and then we moved to Wanaka as a family. That was after the Christchurch earthquakes, and we'd always kind of looked at moving somewhere, and Wanaka just seemed like a great option. And obviously for me, that was amazing. It meant a new school that was really outdoor orientated, and some good friends that were great skiers. And in the winter, it was just a lot more skiing and a lot easier skiing, I guess is the way to put it. You're not having to drive a long way to a club field and then walk up the whole way, which I still love, but in terms of easy skiing and just getting a lot of laps in for practice, Wanaka is pretty hard to beat for that. So we moved down here. I did my last 3 years of high school down here, competing throughout and getting some good results within New Zealand. And I think, I won a few events, which felt pretty cool. And then on my last year of high school, a good friend and amazing judge who has done Olympic judging and Freeride World Tour judging, he created a New Zealand Junior Freeride Tour, which had 3 stops across the country. And basically, I was 17 at the time, so it was my last possible year to do the under 18 New Zealand Junior Freeride Tour. And I managed to take away the title of that event of the tour. And the result for that was a wild card to go to the Junior World Championships in Andorra that coming summer for us. So that was huge for me. That is definitely a moment that kind of just shaped the direction I was going to go. And you, in the right photo there, that's me. The prize for winning that tour was another pair of skis, which I picked up from Races Edge here in Wanaka. And yeah, that was huge as well. I sold those skis, put the money straight into going overseas, and didn't really look back too much. I think having that pathway from that junior freeride tour in New Zealand to then being able to go compete in Europe still needed a lot of support and help, but at least the pathway was there. So I was the first one in New Zealand from that junior tour to take that pathway, which was pretty special. And I didn't have much in terms of sponsors and financial support at this stage, but even just winning, skis or equipment is massive. And if you can use that or sell that, that helps a lot. And so pretty much wrapped up my skiing and competing as a junior in New Zealand. And was finishing high school. We finish in December high school. And then I was looking to start, the next period of my life. And I had the option to go to Europe. This is a couple more just wrap up photos from the end of my time competing as a junior in New Zealand. A couple good friends on the podium there, Hank and Matt. And then the bottom right photo is a classic New Zealand competition day with tussocks everywhere, and I think that's a classic tussock gap. And then the New Zealand Junior Freeride Tour, I did a little write-up from that and winning that, which took me overseas. I had a great sponsor, actually. AJ Hackett Bungee came on board and helped with my flights. So that was awesome. And at the end of that year on the New Zealand Junior Freeride Tour, I picked up my first proper ski sponsor, which was Atomic, and they were amazing from that period. And when I got to Europe, they were really supportive, and they've just been an amazing sponsor since. So here I am. I finished up high school in New Zealand and figured I should probably take this opportunity to go overseas competing. And I ended up deciding to go to Chamonix for a winter and actually stayed with a Scot, Campbell Cassidy, who's been living there since the Blizzard of Ours movie was released, which I'm sure some of you might know. So I was staying with him and his partner Danny, and they were amazing. Nothing would have been possible without them, and they took me into their home and supported me in so many ways, gave me a place to live, and were just nothing but amazing to me. So I've got got so much to thank them for, because that really was the start of everything. That first season in Europe, it completely opened my eyes, and I was, learning things every day. And being in a place like Chamonix was special as well. There was actually a junior freeride tour stop there, which was pretty special as well. So I headed to Europe just before Christmas. I did some labouring work here just before heading away to pay for the expenses, which of course were pretty large. But again, having people like Campbell looking out for me, helping me out with things where he could, was so helpful. And as a junior, it's quite tricky because you can't win money. I don't know why that is, but there's no prize money for the events. It's just equipment, which is still great, but it just makes it a bit harder for when you do well, instead of having a check that you can put into your next rent or fuel. You've just got a ski jacket or something which you might already have because of sponsors, or so it's a little bit harder as a junior, I'd say. And especially being over there by myself, I was still 17 for the whole season. So yeah, it was definitely eye-opening, and it was a very pivotal part of my life, and as well as my skiing. So I'm super thankful for it, and wouldn't trade it for anything. So I got over there, set up in Chamonix. My first competition was actually the Junior Freeride World Champs, which is what I got the wildcard to come over for. So I headed to Barcelona, there's the Sagrada Familia, and then made my way up to Andorra for that event. I ended up, crashing out in that event. Didn't go too well. There was just a couple of things weren't right, but my brother was there. He just came to Europe nonetheless for a bit of a ski holiday, so that was amazing. And then we headed back to the Alps and back to Chamonix, where I actually had my first competition of the Junior Freeride Tour, which is run by the Freeride World Tour as the junior leg of it. And that was in Chamonix. That's the bottom photo there, is the podium from it. And yeah, that was just amazing, really. I wasn't expecting to do well, and I ended up winning it. And I just remember that feeling of just disbelief and relief, I guess, of something working out. And then there were two more events on the tour. I got second in Austria, and then at the final event in Verbier, I actually crashed, but I had another result from a New Zealand competition, which was awesome. So I ended up the bottom left photo there. That's the overall winners of the junior tour, and I'm on the left there. So yeah, I came away from that season in Europe having an incredible amount of life experience, as well as having a junior freeride tour title, which was amazing, really. So I went back to New Zealand, and then went back to Europe and did the qualifiers. Now that I was 18, I had to do the Freeride World qualifiers in order to qualify for the Freeride World Tour, which is the creme de la creme tour that everybody is trying to get onto. So I got to Europe and I decided to base myself in Verbier this season. That little shack in the middle photo, bottom middle, is where I lived. Rent wasn't too expensive, but I didn't have too much money either. And then I had a job that fell through, and there were a few things that were quite hard with money. I also didn't have much money starting out because I was in debt from the last season, the junior season. So I went back to New Zealand, did some working and paid that off, but then couldn't make enough money to be able to sustain a full season in Europe. So it was a little bit tricky, and I remember money ran out, I think, before the first event even happened. So that was a bit of an eye opener. But I actually went to the first event, and my mum and sister actually were in Europe at the time, which was awesome. They came along, and I somehow won the first 4-star qualifier, which is the biggest qualifier there is. So that was another eye-opening experience and feeling of disbelief and relief, where I got a check this time, and that money was used very wisely. But yeah, it was incredible, really. I didn't expect to come into my first comp and take it out, but things just clicked on the day. I felt really good and really relaxed as well. Found a line I was quite excited to ski, and that always helps. But I'll get into the line stuff later on. So after that, winning that first event, I had a couple crashes and didn't do too well in some other events, and found that really tricky as well, especially because money was tight and I was overseas doing this qualifying tour, which felt like I wasn't really the right thing for me. And I had friends doing university and other things, and I was basically made the decision that if I wasn't to qualify for the Freeride World Tour, then I wouldn't have another go at the qualifying tour. That would just be this one crack I was going to have, and then I'd move on from there. But there was one more event of the season, so I went along to that. Again, there were a couple awesome friends there, and things just clicked on the day, and I skied really well. Ended up winning that event, which put me straight onto the Freeride World Tour. So that was awesome, and another little bit of cash which helped pull me out of debt before heading over back to New Zealand. So that was the end of the season in Europe and the end of my qualifier season. Coming out on top was super special. Couldn't have really asked for anything better. It just it all worked out and went really well in the end. So lots of fond memories from that season as well. It's lots of highs and lows, I'd say, of the the qualifiers. So after the qualifiers, I had a trip planned before returning to New Zealand. So the bottom left and top right photo are from a kayak trip. My brother and I joined our dad and his friend on a kayak trip to Alaska. So we went and did the outside route in southeast Alaska around Baranof and Chickagoff Islands up into Glacier Bay. And that was incredible. I mean, for me, after having done 2 seasons skiing, to do something overseas that was that different just felt amazing. And I think, for me, that was definitely a time where I kind of was thinking forward a bit more as well. And it was then I actually picked up a book in a hut, and I've always been quite interested in ecology and biology, and was reading through a book and decided that I'd like to study it. So shortly after that trip, when I returned to New Zealand, I enrolled in university and started university there. The top left photo is a photo from my mum's family. They've got a amazing place in Vermont. So we went and had a little holiday there after Alaska, which was awesome. Middle photo is me at university. And then the bottom right photo is a group of us friends skiing in New Zealand that winter back in NZ. So then I had my first season on the Freeride World Tour, which that's what the FWT stands for there. So yeah, I had a semester at university, and then come December, the winter starts in Europe, and I was qualified for the Freeride World Tour. So I was booking my flights, and I headed over to Japan in January. I had a great summer before the Freeride World Tour. I think I wasn't super keen to have another full winter based in one place, so I decided to have a bit of summer, and then I shot to Japan straight away with a couple of days before the first event, which was very exciting. The event in Japan ended up being cancelled because of avalanche risk and conditions, but we then went to Canada for the second stop of the tour, and they restaged the Japan event in Canada as well. And again, my brother was there, had some Tom and Jeremy, another couple good friends there. So I crashed in those 2 events. They were back to back, so that was quite amusing coming to the first 2 events and in the space of 24 hours, having 2 crashes. But nonetheless, I was still pretty excited with what I was doing and traveling the world skiing, and making a little bit of money for it now, which was amazing, thanks to a couple sponsors. So from Canada, the tour went to Europe and had 3 events in Europe, and had Andorra, Austria, and Switzerland. And yeah, as you can see here, I landed a run in Andorra, which was amazing. That was the turning point for sure. I couldn't really believe skiing out the bottom of that. Just felt so good that I finally had put something together. And yeah, it was the point where I was like, okay, well, that's kind of decided what I'm, doing next. And so I went to Austria, had another crash there, unfortunately, but thanks to my second place in Andorra, I could qualify for the final event, which was in Switzerland. So I went to the final event, and again was, quite relaxed at the top, and had a run. I was excited to ski. So that went really well, better than I could have asked it to go, and ended up in second place there in the final, which was another huge result for me. Having 2 second places in my first season on the Freeride World Tour was super special. Yeah, I guess a quick overview to the Freeride World Tour is there's, and here's a video we'll watch of that run, but so there's 25 male skiers, and then there's proportional amount of other disciplines, both snowboard and male and female. So yeah, out of 25 riders to land a couple of results in second place felt incredible. That was a place I was looking for a long time, and to be skiing and standing on the podium with legends and people I've been looking up to was super special. I'll play this video now, and so this is the last run of my first season on the Freeride World Tour.
And next one, already on course, Greg Murray out of New Zealand. The rookie that, let's say, he didn't surprise us, because on the qualifiers he showed us his excellence of tricks and big mountain skills.
That was huge. Where did that come from? It was like a little kind of a cliff drop into that 360.
Yeah, he just proved my opening sentence to him. And
obviously, doing big tricks like that, doing a 360 high, the risk factor for the rest of your line, you're laying it all out that early on when your legs are cold, your arms are cold, you've been waiting at the top of that mountain. It's a lot harder to get yourself mentally ready for that. So the judges obviously pay attention to that.
Oh my God, another 360 into a section we have not seen yet. We have opening lines one after the other, and you have to know he's 19 years of age. He is the youngest rookie, probably the youngest guy ever competed on the Back de Ross.
He's not done yet.
And he's not done yet. He has even a winning line in his bags. Oh my God.
Oh my goodness. Well, is that going to be enough? I mean, 2 massive 360s, and they weren't massive. We're not talking about setup tricks or something just to tick a freestyle box. They were huge.
Whatever score you're going to have, you can be so proud of yourself, Mr. Greg Murray. Oh my God, that middle 360 was humongous. Opening it up with this one, beautifully stumped, and now look at that.
The only thing that's slightly low is control when you look at the graphics. That 360 is huge. It must just be those landings. There's a slight little bounce out of the landings. Mikael, again, straight over to congratulate him.
So yeah, that was the first season on the Freeride World Tour, and to finish it in a way like that was definitely a bang. So I was pretty elated. Couldn't believe it. And there's lots of other videos on YouTube as well. There's one of a performance check of that run where we go through and analyze the run. That New Ground is a video that I made of that whole season. So it shows my 2 crashes, and then my run in Andorra getting second, and then my run in Verbier as well. So that's a good one that gives you an overview of the season on the Freeride World Tour. And that's one we'll get to soon, as well as that one there. So after my I'll just get out of this. After my season on the Freeride World Tour, I returned to New Zealand and continued at university. This is now, so continued at university in 2018, and then come the start of 2019, the second season started on the Freeride World Tour. So again, traveled to Japan, which was awesome. This season I was based in Colorado at the start of the winter, living with my girlfriend Lillian at the Edgerly's place, which was super nice of them. So traveled to Japan in January 2019. And yeah, I came out firing, really. I just decided to, lay it all out there, and I did a big trick off the top jump, and that kind of set the tone for my skiing for the rest of the winter. I think I wasn't there to make up numbers or to ski in a conservative way. I was definitely there to win, or at least try to win. And yeah, so I ended up getting 5th in that event in Japan. I think just because I was so surprised that I landed that top trick, I didn't know what to do for the rest of my run because I was so amazed that I landed it. But I got 5th there, so then the tour traveled to Canada again, same tour as the year before, and I actually managed to take it out in Canada, which was massive. I, didn't really ever see myself winning one of the events, but when it happened, it just felt amazing, and everything came together on the day. I found a different little section of the face that I wanted to ski, and the snow looked really good. The features were good. So I, just decided to traverse over and then do a little line. I got stuck in a rope at the top of it, which was a bit of a curveball, and then skied through a section. Just felt supernatural and easy. I think I'd done a lot of skiing that winter before that and done a lot of jumping and tricks, so everything felt pretty normal and relaxed for me, and it just allowed that level to be my level of normality, just be slightly higher. And yeah, to take that out was amazing, and it put me in 2nd place overall, which was an amazing position as well to try and work towards the Freeride World Tour overall title. So then went to Europe and crashed out in Fieberbrunn, broke my heel, which obviously was painful, and meant I returned on a flight back to New Zealand, and luckily I could still enroll in the 1st semester of university because of the time of year it was in. So I snuck into university, did a few courses that I had to do in order to get my majors. So it ended up being a blessing in disguise because I had a full year at university and managed to tick off these courses that I'd have to take time off to do at some point anyway. It was a real shame for my skiing season because it was going so well, and but it's hard to think like that as well. I just try to think of how positive it was for my study, and then I healed up in about 8 weeks. I healed up. I was on crutches for a while. I was quite lucky. It wasn't too bad a break. It was just my calcaneus, and then went on a rafting trip down the Grand Canyon in my semester break, which was pretty awesome, and then had a great winter in New Zealand. And then that wraps up 2019. This is the winning run I was just talking about in Canada, and you'll see me get stuck on the rope. At this point, the video will come from the top, but you'll see me get stuck up here, and the commentators don't really know what is going on because it was quite a random event.
Coming on over from Japan, where he had some good times, get a bunch of deep pow, had a good time in Revy as well, and now here in Kicking Horse Mountain Resort, Golden, beautiful British Columbia, giving a wave and a good luck to his friends and compatriots at the top, as he always does, and he's so stylish and so solid. I think this venue's really going to suit him.
Yeah, Craig Murray blowing minds in Japan with that cork 7 with the blind crab on the tail there. Heading down the ridge, we're going to see if he's going to pump off the ridge or he's going to go down into the spine zone where Tanner went. Get a little slash turn there, just checking things out. This is a great way to actually see where you're going. Get real close to the corner so you can kind of take a look over and also throw some snow over for the crowd.
Is he getting right to the top of the spine station like Tanner did? Looks like it.
Yeah, you can see Tanner's track. I think that Craig has gone too far and is actually below where he meant to go. That just based on the body language that we're seeing, yeah, he's waving. Craig Murray.
Looks a bit frustrated there. Hopefully
Yeah.
he's got something lined up and doesn't go blind from this point, because it is gnarly. Of course that's not blind. How could you spin a 3 like that in the area? What do you mean he's lost? Look at him go with the transfer! Oh my Craig! What the hell was that?
He wasn't lost. He was hyping up the crowd. That was his hype up move. Craig Murray finding a third air there on the extra credit. There was, I completely misread that. Craig Murray was putting his hands up to make sure everybody had eyes on what was about to go down. That was spectacular.
crap.
Such a creative use of that way rider's right zone. This is perfect. Look where he landed. G powder and then straight onto that left foot to get across to where he needed to be for this massive flat spin.
Holy
Craig Murray
crap,
and
Craig.
catching Tranny perfectly there again. That was such a well-scoped line. Craig knew exactly where he was and exactly what he was doing. That was just spectacular.
Mind-blowing stuff.
So yeah, that was the first event that I won, and a very special one. It was actually on Waitangi Day, which is like New Zealand's Independence Day, and there was a big crew of Kiwis there. We had some flags, and yeah, it was a lot of fun, and yeah, a very special moment. I think Kicking Horse now holds a special place in my heart. It's just, yeah, it's been a great place over the years, and that day was incredible as well. I think it was like -30 or -25, and the snow was just so cold and dry and perfect. So it made, in those conditions, the skiing's very good, but you've definitely got cold toes dropping into it because your boots are just cranked to the maximum. You can't feel your legs, but yeah, that was special. Actually, I'll just note this movie as well, Southern Alps here. That's a film that a few of us made here in New Zealand, which gives you a good overview into the club skiing culture and what it's like skiing in New Zealand, and a bit of more of our upbringing and who we are and why we are what we are and what we're doing. So that's, it's worth watching that if you're interested. So that was my 2019. It was highs, lows, and university, which was actually a lot of fun. I had some good friends at university I was living with as well. So this is the third season. I won't spend too long talking through this one, but so this was 2020, start of 2020, flew to Japan. Didn't go too well in Japan. Things were just not quite right. So that was tricky, and then went to Kicking Horse again, where I won the year before. Ended up getting 4th there, but also I missed my line and it wasn't quite right. And then went to Europe again. I crashed in Andorra, and then went to Austria and managed to win, which is the run I'll show you shortly. And that was another incredible moment, winning that event in Austria. That was some of the best skiing I've done, I think, and it felt amazing because that exact place, that exact top of the run in Austria, is where I broke my heel the year before. So to clean the run and come out the bottom was just another insane feeling, and I'll forever remember that. And then COVID hit, which I'm sure, everyone is aware of the effect it had at the time. And I had just finished that event in Austria. We'd just wrapped up there in Fieberbrunn, and then I decided to head to Salzburg, and then everything just kind of took off, and all of a sudden our competitions was being brought forward 2 weeks. The final competition was being brought forward, and we had to make it across borders that were starting to be controlled, and everything was just getting a little bit crazy at that time. And so I made it there for this competition. That looked amazing. It was the final competition, and I was in a great place to have a crack at the overall world title. I was in 4th at the time, and the venue looked amazing. The face was just perfect, but we didn't get to do it, and at the 11th hour it was cancelled because the canton government, which is completely fair enough, said that it wasn't going to be allowed to happen. So I flew back to New Zealand and did a self quarantine, and then we had lockdown here in New Zealand, and I'll go into some post-COVID after this. So this is the winning run from 2020 in Austria. I actually just saw that this was a year ago yesterday. So it's
Craig Murray back to his nemesis. He went down hard, ended his season on this face with a move that, had it worked, might have been the coolest thing I've ever seen. Unfortunately, it didn't for him.
Just a little bit of insight as well. Myself, you can see me here. I'm actually got a bleeding nose.
But he's back. He's full.
Punched doing up my pole strap. I hit myself in the face. So I've got a bleeding nose here as they're counting me down to drop in. And you'll see at the bottom, I'm trying to deal with my nose that's still bleeding.
Ended his season on this face with a move that, had it worked, might have been the coolest thing I've ever seen. Unfortunately, it didn't for him, but he's back. He's fully recovered. He's skiing at a top level. Love his interpretation of the mountains. Every time he drops in, I'm on the edge of my seat. I can't wait to see what Craig's got here for us.
Just like me right now, buddy. Is he going to spin a floaty 3 into the exposure above the Heusel Cliff and then pin it to a different landing? Yes, he is. New Zealand just crushing it so far today. And Craig Murray, mentally strong, needs a result today to make Verbier, and got injured here last year. Then flat 3 into the section.
Oh, Craig Murray with 2 massive tricks on the upper section of his run. The flat, spinning above the exposure, still absolutely pinned, not taking his foot off the gas at all. So fast, even with the tricks. Craig Murray definitely making a case here for the top spot on the podium, as his run is hot right now.
Just floating off that one and sending this one to with style. Just stay on your feet, buddy. Get through that heavy debris. Get to the finish line, and we will have 3 Kiwis going to Verbier for the first time in the history of the Freeride World Tour. Pumping his chest, yelling out. He is pumped. He is psyched. He is stoked, and I am for him. That was a magic run, and wow, similar style to Isaac, but completely different execution.
Well, Craig Murray has had his redemption on the Wildsloader. Last year, it took him out. This year, he took it to that upper 360 was insane. I think he probably had a bit of nerves going into that because he knew how it went for him last year. So he picked something that the risk factor of landing on rock was a little bit less. It was more crosshill, but the risk factor of getting that right, because it was right above the next cliff. Look how quickly he's into the Heusel. One little redirect and then pinned off the nose.
Hands to his face a lot. I wonder if he kneed himself in the face in one of those landings, maybe even that one. But the fact that he had to stomp that flat 3 to another air straight away is just blowing my mind.
Yeah, so judging criteria just lit right up there. He's pumped, looking like he's maybe got a bit something going on his face there. But
The smile is now have their work cut out for them, as we already have 2 runs with Hank and Isaac in the 90s. Whew, that was a hot one.
Yeah, that is amazing. We have 2 Kiwis in the top 3 at the moment, just behind an American. So how it's going to look after the score comes in. Just to let you know that
96-6-7. Craig Murray takes over the top spot from Isaac Freeland.
So yeah, that was my last competition. I still haven't competed since that day in skiing. Oh no, that's not true. I did a little one in New Zealand last year, but haven't been back on the Freeride World Tour since. It's been tricky with COVID and everything happening, but I'm super motivated to get back over there. I think even just watching that now makes me pretty excited to get back competing. So yeah, I'll just go through a little bit of post-COVID stuff, what I've been up to. So in 2020, came back to New Zealand. We had lockdown, and then I finished up my degree, which is a Bachelor of Science double major in Geography and Environmental Science. At the moment, having a summer, which has been nice. It's been a change. Doing a lot of other things. Currently training for an Ironman, actually. And then, finding other ways to keep busy. And I absolutely cannot wait for the New Zealand winter to start, because I definitely have, definitely just itching to get on the snow. So, and then obviously I've got goals and a lot of motivation to keep spending time in the mountains and enjoying and progressing my skiing over the next few years. I think, I have a lot of motivation and a lot of love, actually, is a good way to put it. A lot of love for what I do. So definitely not over it yet, but hoping that we can get on top of COVID and everything, so things can return to somewhat normal. Maybe a different normal is better anyway. So, and then a little bit of mountain attitude, I guess. Just thought it'd be good to throw in there. So for me, growing up in the mountains, I've always had a good respect for them and always found ways to work with them in positive ways, whether it's, in the summer climbing a peak or in the winter going ski touring in the backcountry. Always respect them and learn about them. And talk to experts as well. And I think it's super important, especially in what the type of skiing that I do, is to have experience and respect for the mountains, because it's not like skiing on piste or skiing in the terrain park or cross-country skiing. It's very dynamic out there, and things are always changing, and your equipment's always changing, and the people you're with are changing, and you'll have film crews out there, and you'll have so many different variables. So it's just important to be able to manage them and to have the right attitudes out there that are positive, as well as respectful, I guess. And I think I've got one more little slide, which is just another slide on the New Zealand skiing culture, which I think is a super special part of New Zealand and part of who I am as well. I think it's just different, and I'm sure. I've been to Scotland skiing on one occasion, and felt the same, maybe with slightly more clothes, but it just felt like another corner of the world, a special little corner that is unique and has its own thing going on and is completely happy in its ways. So I think if anyone watching has the opportunity to come to New Zealand or experience some of the New Zealand ski culture, I'd strongly recommend it. There's a lot of special things here that might not be around forever, especially with climate change. So I'd like to say a big thank you to the New Zealand skiing culture for basically my upbringing and giving me a pathway to where I am today, because I've lived a pretty incredible young life so far, and a lot of it wouldn't have been possible without the support and encouragement from New Zealand skiing. So there's just a few more photos of what I get up to when I'm not skiing. That's me and my brother on the top left, just on a mountain hike. Beautiful hut there. And then kayaking adventure with Dad and his friend, and then diving in Stewart Island, which is the bottom of New Zealand, on the bottom right. And I just want to say a huge thank you to everyone for watching. It's been a pleasure to share a little bit of the journey with you. I hope it wasn't too confusing. I'm sure some of it is a bit hard to follow, especially once you get into the competition and qualifying side of things. But please ask any questions on free riding, on judging, or equipment, anything you've got. Be happy to answer them. But yeah, massive thank you to Mike for having me on, to Sue for initiating it, and to the whole Boat of Garten community for welcoming on the last show, which is pretty special. So thanks again, and it's been a pleasure to go through with all of you.
Brilliant. Thank you, Craig. Now that's fantastic, and there's some really amazing skiing in there. So it's pretty incredible. It makes my blue runs look a bit tame. No, that's fantastic. And one of your early slides, you were showing you skied down Mount Avalanche in New Zealand, and it just struck me at that point that if I was encouraged to go and ski down Mount Avalanche, I'd run a mile. Just the name is a bit of a clue. I mean, how much is there an awareness of and an ability to sort of suss out the avalanche risks? And just linking into that, Tim Walker's posted a similar sort of question. He was, he referred to the event being cancelled in Japan because of the avalanche risks, and so I think what he's asking around is the free ride tour people, organisers, and how much responsibility they take for your safety. So there's two questions there. One is about your personal responsibility for checking out and what you feel about the risks involved, whether it's avalanche or other, and the responsibility that's taken by the free ride tour people themselves around avalanches and other risks.
Yeah, so personally, I do everything I can to make sure I'm safe in environments, and to make sure our group is safe. I've done courses and Avalanche Qualification, risk and avalanche management. And through that you learn about everything from like snow science, basically the crystal types and all the temperature gradients. So you learn how to dig a snow pit to assess the snowpack, to carry out tests to see if the snowpack has a weakness and where the weakness might be, and then you can determine what to watch out for, basically. So I'm always thinking of that when I'm out there. There's really good online sites where you can check the risk and recent activity. There's experts out there who are constantly posting about areas, so I'll always check that before going out. And then if it's high danger, I probably won't go out, but if it's moderate, then you'll manage that and carry out tests and make sure you stick to areas that aren't high risk. In terms of the freeride tour, when it comes to the competition, they are wholly responsible for the event and the management of the avalanche risk and medical and everything involved. They've got multiple guides and medics and doctors on site. They'll carry out tests before the event happens and do necessary measures to make sure there's no places that are going to slide to endanger athletes. So in the case of the Japan event, that risk was high, so they had to manage it, and that meant putting explosives in the face, and with explosives, because the risk was high, the whole face slid to the bedrock, so there was no snow left.
Wow.
Yeah.
That made the decision easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
just
definitely a significant part of it. It's you have to continuously practice it as well, because you don't know when something is going to go wrong.
Yeah. Okay, just kind of moving on from that then. When on the freeride tour, do you get a chance to have trial runs? I mean, or is that the first time you come down the mountain on the race itself, or do you you up there the day before, looking at it and just checking it out?
Yeah, so that's the biggest thing about freeriding is you don't get any practice runs or any inspection other than visual inspection, which is only through your binoculars from the other side of the valley. You look at the peak through your binoculars and you can take photos, and you study the peak and your line and where you want to go. And then on the competition day, you hike around the back to the top of the peak and you drop into your line completely blind, if you will.
Yeah. Wow.
You've studied where your features are and where the cliffs are and what's below them, because that's super important to know where you are, and you've got features and landmarks that you'll look for as you ski down, but the idea is you've never skied there before. It's completely fresh and new, and that's the spirit, I guess, of freeriding, and where it was born from is just your interpretation of what's in front of you.
So does that mean that you have to have good visibility as well? You can't ski, and if the clouds are down, if you haven't got good visibility, that would make it pretty ridiculous. Yeah,
sure. I think visibility and conditions are everything when it comes to competition day.
Do they have to move competition days around then? Something to take account of the weather.
They've usually got a week-long weather window, which they'll choose the best day there, and generally you will have postponements and you can't run if certain events are not good enough conditions.
Carol's asking if how do you get up by helicopter, or do you have to walk up, or how do you get to the start at the top of the mountain? Is it you drop
usually off? It's hike. You walk up, and that can be anywhere from half an hour to an hour and a half. Sometimes you'll use helicopters if either the weather window is really short and they want to get everyone through fast, or if there's less people or one category has to go. Occasionally there's exceptions where you'll use a helicopter, but in general you've got a hike line up along a ridge to the peak, and then from the start there. And
from your own sort of interest and your own sort of enthusiasm and skills, I mean, do you do any boarding or telemarking or ski mountaineering touring? You into all those?
Yeah, I do. I do all of those. Actually, I do some snowboarding, which I love, but I don't do too much of it. And then I do a lot of ski mountaineering,
Yeah.
and then cross country skiing, do some telemarking. I like to do a bit of everything. It keeps it fun and exciting.
Yeah, those first skis that you won as a 16, 17-year-old, they looked massive. Were they too big for you, or are they the size of skis you need on the free ride? Because they look like sort of ski jumpers skis almost.
Yeah, I think they were exceptionally fat, especially for me at that age.
Yeah, I could.
But I think the skis I ski on now, in proportion to that, would be just as big. It just helps to have more flotation, a bigger landing platform, and more stability. So when you're at high speeds and taking off the ground, landing back on the ground, there's just a lot more of a base for you to go off. I think it just, I've got generally much longer and fatter skis than anyone else on the mountain. Yeah.
Okay. And David McCall's just asking about the bindings, and what kind of bindings do you use for backcountry and for the the world tour, the free ride world tour?
So for the competitions, I'll generally use the downhill binding, alpine binding. That's a classic. Just toe and click in the back.
Yep.
They're called Atomic STH 16s, and I'll usually run the DIN at about 13 to 14 with forward pressure and toe height adjusted to that as well. So for competitions, I've got a kind of different ski setup that's a bit more beefy and it's heavier and more focused to charging, if you will. And then backcountry stuff, I've got a slightly lighter setup where I use the Atomic Shift binding, which is the downhill touring hybrid, which is actually, I've used it in competition and it's fine. But I guess I just like to generally have a bit more of a solid piece when I'm competing. But yeah, the shift goes up and down. It's a bit lighter and it's a good all-round binding, really.
Great. Okay. Dave McQueen's asking, what's the kind of how much percentage of importance do you attribute to your mental preparation just prior to the start of a race? So the nerves and the anxiety, but also the kind of the thinking through and just what's going on in your head.
Yeah, that's a good question because I didn't really cover too much of the mental side of it, but it's everything, to be honest. It's from when you're doing your visual inspection to getting to the finish line. It's most of it is mental preparation, and I'm just used to it, and I guess it doesn't seem too different or like a big deal or anything, but you do fall into your own mental preparation where I'll scope my line and then I'll think about what I'm going to do, and then I'll visualize it from the top, and I'll try and visualize skiing down through it and what I'm seeing and what the cliff's going to look like and how the landing's going to be, and then visualize myself skiing out the bottom. So it's very important, and it's also very tough. You have to be very mentally strong in order to push through a few barriers that you might mentally put on your way to the start gate. When you're on the top of the peak looking down, and it's really scary. Maybe there's mental doubt or anything else pops up. You need to be able to push through that and actually focus in on what you're about to do, because you'll be a lot safer that way as well. So you can have techniques to dealing with that as well, like breathing or visualizing. I do a bit of both, probably. So it's a good question. There's a lot of that for sure.
Yeah, and flowing from that, when you start the run, how much of the run is kind of pre-planned and how much of it is spontaneous or intuitive? In terms, you get to doing a jump. Do you know what you're going to do, or at what point do you determine what the jump's going to be?
So you try and pre-plan as much as you can. I am probably not. I'll give you a different answer than maybe another athlete, but I'll pre-plan as much as I can, but I'll know that there'll be a couple things that I'll have to freestyle and just make up on the way. So an example of that is if you land in a slightly different position on one cliff, that's going to set you up for a different takeoff on the next one. And all of a sudden you might have to do an extra turn, or you might have to miss a turn, which means you've got extra speed you've got to deal with at a later point down the run. So there's all sorts of things that can happen, and I mean, just the conditions themselves are variable. But as soon as you're including your run and 6 different features in I don't know 15 turns, something's gonna not go as planned. So you have to be able to adjust for that.
Yeah. So balance and reflex is really, really crucial, isn't it? As well as nerve.
Yeah.
Sean Langmuir is asking, do you take inspiration from past Kiwi skiers?
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of amazing skiers that have come out of New Zealand over the years, and a lot of them are quite humble, and it'd be hard to find them these days or know that they've done anything amazing. But there's actually a book coming out soon called The History of Free Skiing in New Zealand, and it's just got an incredible amount of old skiers I didn't even know existed that have pioneered New Zealand skiing, and they've really, really pushed boundaries in places and that I didn't know, and just helped to create pathways for Kiwi skiers. And I'll definitely be looking up to those older Kiwi skiers for a long time, because it relates to what I do. Skiing in New Zealand is so different than skiing overseas. It's harder, and conditions can be changing, and it's just so unique, like I said. And I think you find when you're in New Zealand skiing, you appreciate each day skiing so much more than when you're overseas. And I think when I am overseas, I'll maybe pick and choose my skiing days slightly more than when I'm in New Zealand. I could have a bad snow day in New Zealand that could be one of my favorite days of the whole season. So you definitely just appreciate what's in front of you when you're skiing here, I guess.
Do you still have those crazy toes where you have to hook yourself on and try and help yourself at the top?
Yeah.
I mean, that's almost the most dangerous part of the ski.
Yeah, the rope toes and nutcrackers.
Yeah, that's right, the nutcrackers. That's it. Yeah. So, coming back to kind of injuries and so on, you had that one really bad injury when you broke your heel. Have you had others? I mean, and how do you cope with it? Because you must get, your body's taking quite a hammering, isn't it?
I haven't had too many other injuries. I've had one collarbone break, and recently in summer I actually had a little shoulder tweak of one of the ligaments, but nothing too crazy. And I mean, dealing with the heel one, I was just on crutches for probably 4 weeks, and then I guess I just got on with it. I knew that it'd be a while until it was fully healed, and it did take a few years. It was sore in a ski boot for most of the year, and I just had faith and that it would heal. I'm definitely young and can afford to be a little bit rougher on my body than others. And I think the main toll actually that skiing takes, obviously if you have a big injury, that's going to be huge.
Yeah.
But me, not having too many big injuries, I just find the continuous impacts more what wears you down, if you will.
Yeah. If I go on a skiing holiday, I like to take out insurance. So can you get ski insurance?
Yeah, I can.
Yeah?
You get separate insurance for competitions,
Right.
but I can get off-piste skiing insurance, which yeah,
Yeah.
which is lucky.
Okay. You describe yourself as a professional skier, and I just wonder, what does that mean? Do you do ski lessons and you're a ski instructor, or is it just all through the competitions and that you're able to, through the freeride tour and through sponsorship, that generates enough for you to get by on, or for you to become
So
fantastic?
I guess I call myself a professional skier because I've got contracts with sponsors that are salaries and pay me to represent their brands and compete and film on the Freeride World Tour, or at a high level of skiing, I guess is a better way of putting it. So I guess that is enough to sustain my lifestyle and put me through university, and so I guess I consider it an income and job, and that's what I would say. That's why I call it. But I also do coaching and some lessons in coaching. Most of it is actually for free for some kids in the club fields, but
Great. Good. That's a good. Dave McQueen's asking, are you following the America's Cup at the moment? And how do you think the adrenaline rush on the America's Cup compares to what you're doing in the skiing?
Yeah, well, it's probably pretty similar. Those guys are crazy. I'm actually hoping to fly up this weekend to Auckland for some spectating out on the water. So pretty excited for that. But yeah, I think those guys, it's just insane. The technology and skill that those teams have is incredible.
Yeah, and I'm sure they'd say the same about you, that you're insane and the skills you've got are.
Yeah,
So
relative,
I guess a mutual respect from it there. Yeah. So in terms of your future, I mean, are you looking beyond next season, or do you have long-term goals? And is there a competition between skiing and botany and ecology?
Yeah, I'm looking forward a bit. I mean, it's hard for me to look forward more than a couple of years, to be honest. And I don't think I want to look forward more than a couple of years. I like to focus on what I want to do in the next year or two, and then really put time and energy into that and focus on being present in those goals. So yeah, I mean, a lot of skiing and some projects and stuff.
Right.
But I do, I've been looking to do a little bit of work related to my degree as well. Hopefully build more of a some other skills, obviously diversify myself a bit.
But really, your main goal is hoping that the tour kicks off later this year, and we can put this last year 12 months behind us, and you can get back into skiing, around the world in an immersive way.
Hopefully. I'm also hoping to do some film trips as well, which has been it's been a big goal for a long time. I always thought I'd do the Freeride World Tour and then perhaps do more filming work or filming skiing. So we'll look to do that as well, but hopefully have another season or two on the Freeride World Tour.
Great stuff. So is the filming on your own, or is that with a team? Is that part of a Atomic sponsored activity?
Great. It can vary. There's actually both of those. and yeah, so there's production companies as well that make ski movies each year, which yeah, hoping to ski with those guys. It's a different, it's a lot of fun. It's still the same high level of skiing, but it's just a different way of doing it.
So we'll watch out for you at the Banff Mountain Film Festival in a couple of years' time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Very good. Okay. Well, that's been a fantastic night, and it's been really great. I mean, amazingly impressive skiing, obviously, but just taking us through how you get there. It doesn't just happen. You have to really work at it and be determined, and as well as having the skills and the attributes. So that's great to see the way that story is developing, and it'll be good to keep track on you and see how things move on, and see moving up the rankings from fourth to third and second, maybe in the free wide world tour, and who knows, champion itself. But it's been brilliant, and thank you so very, very much for getting up at the crack of dawn out in New Zealand to join with us tonight, and give us a really good finale for our season of talks. So thanks a lot, Craig. That's been brilliant.
Yeah, no, absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
No, it's great. Okay, folks. Well, that's us nearly done for this year. It was an amazing talk that Craig's given us, and it just registers how limited my skiing is when you see what he's doing. But so thanks to Craig. But can I also thank all of our 6 speakers that we've had for this truly remarkable season of talks. Not what we were planning last summer, but it's turned out to be really good. Thanks also to Graham, who's made it all possible. Graham Atkinson, who's behind the scenes making sure the technology all works, and we can uncross our fingers and toes and fingers now, because the broadband held up brilliantly from New Zealand. So that's really, really good. And can I thank you all for watching? We've had over 5,000 people view the first 5 talks. It's amazing. So thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed them, and that you'll come back and join us in the autumn, because we plan to carry on doing these live stream talks, even if we're able to go back into the hall with a real live audience. The intention is to live stream simultaneously, so we can enable more people to watch. And for those of you who've made a donation to the GoFundMe page, thank you all very, very much indeed. We didn't really expect to get much money. We thought we might get £100 or £200, and it was worth setting up a GoFundMe page. And when I last looked, we had well over £1,000. So that's really, really generous of you, and thank you very much. And it's the only income that the hall is getting during this lockdown period. So there you go. There's the link to the GoFundMe page if you feel inclined. But don't feel, I'm not putting any pressure, but it is good. So thanks very much. So that's really almost there. If you want to find out more about what we're doing in the autumn, and you want to get onto our mailing list, just drop an email to talksbog, TALKSBOG @gmail.com. Just drop an email in there, and we'll respond to that and put you onto our publicity list and promotion list for the autumn talks. But until then, take care, enjoy the spring and the summer, and we'll see you all again when the nights start drawing in back in the autumn. And hopefully we'll be in a better place by then. Who knows? But thanks a lot. It's been great. Good night.